Hi, Susan D. Harris here. I am really upset at the Christians that I see on the internet that are still into this uh, Nephilim bullshit and everything. I'm really tired of it. I don't know, why is there a shadow on me? I don't know why they're doing this, but they are part of the Great Deception because you're all thinking about that. Meanwhile, in your local neighborhoods, your interfaith movements, your multiculturalism, your globalism, your mindfulness is in your schools, and you're all going around reading L.A. Marzulli books on the Nephilim. Oh wait, there's a new guy I ran across. Hope I didn't scrape the microphone there. Who's this guy? Who's this guy? There's another idiot I've run across here. I can't think of his name now. Randy Demain or something like that. Randy Demain, yeah. Nephilim Resurgence. You know how I ran across him? Because he mentioned a letter by Corey Ten Boom in one of his books. He had the nerve to write Nephilim Resurgence, a book with 0 reviews on Google. It does have good reviews on another website. This stuff is all science fiction, and it's all a distraction. Lisa Haven's another one that she comes out with a lot of good stuff, but then, she's all like, oh, we're all going to die, and you all got to buy your prepper kits or whatever. Everybody's out to make a buck, off of you. And Ellie Marzulli's books, they're all science fiction. Is there some stuff about giants in the book of Genesis, etc.? Yes, but that's not the stuff we're supposed to. Well, you were all out doing that. Somebody else took over your stupid town, you dummies. It makes me so mad that people bought into this stuff and that people are still ripping you off and distracting you with this mindless reptilian, Nephilium. Oh, it's all part of CERN kind of stuff. Meanwhile, the really bad people are in your schools and in your community. Oh, for God's sake, I don't know what the sense is, but I've kind of given up on writing. I might do a little video like this, and I'm gonna do my blog. This article is how Christianity was hijacked to spread Islam, but not just to spread Islam, to globalize America. All the information is out there. Yet the full implications and the gravity of it hasn't sunk into the good-hearted American middle class. You know the ones. They grew up chasing bubble gum thrown from floats at Memorial Day parades. But the country is, for the most part, lost. That's my belief. And I believe I can make a solid case for it. The only ones who can save what's left pride themselves on having jobs that leave them too busy to go anywhere and protest anything. Or so I was told repeatedly, after penning an article in American Thinker that lamented the lack of mass mobilization on the right to counter the full progressive takeover of the country. Yeah, they said to me, well, gee, Susan, why don't you go join your own little club if you think it's so important, or start something where you are? The big picture that people just don't get was brought home to me for the umpteenth time recently, when I walked into a Catholic church to check the hours of the local food bank. While there, I received a pamphlet titled, Our Faith Teaches, Welcoming the Refugees and the Migrant. I soon found out that Francis, the Pope that rocks with refugees, see his hip picture on Caritas.org. I don't know if it's still there from when I wrote this, but if you go to Caritas.org, it had this picture of him walking with his long white Pope sheet, walking with the immigrants like he was, Elvis coming into the stadium. Well, he kicked off the Share the Journey project back in September of 2017. And it's a program designed to reprogram Westerners, but mostly those stubborn colonialist American holdouts, into believing that Jesus Christ was a refugee. and that rejecting an immigrant, legal or illegal, is a mortal sin. For some of their strange suggested exercises for students, check out the simulation floor plan on wedidnothingwrong.org. Now, there's a million of these websites that are out there to show you that the country's already gone. Because behind every website are dozens, hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands of people. Now, again, I want to reiterate, and I'll put a link to it below. It's called wedidnothingwrong.org. No spaces, no hyphens, just wedidnothingwrong.org. Towards the bottom, there's a simulation floor plan, and it tells you very dangerously, I believe, from a psychological standpoint, how to get into the mind of, because it's geared toward young people, even in high schools, even with universities. I think it's dangerous. You get into the mind of an immigrant. You're fleeing. You've got 2 to 3 children. You might be so hungry you need to leave one child behind. You might be being raped or abused in the process of the flight. You might have to force yourself to have sex with someone to get over a border. So, I mean, this is getting into the mind. And then, by the time you're done, you talk about how do you feel about the refugee. It's like, read up on Patty Hearst. By that time, they've got Stockholm syndrome, That's basically what they're doing. It's a brainwashing technique. So that we want everybody to come here under any circumstances, and we say, gosh, we would have rejected Jesus Christ. Well, Jesus Christ was not an immigrant. Anyway, after I wrote about the Pope and the wedidnothingwrong.org, etc., I was contacted by a lady in California who asked me to investigate the church's growing relationship with PICO, P-I-C-O. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it's a Soros and like-minded groups funded community activist organization that, with regard to churches, uses the nom de plume faith in action, or some variant. Among PICO's founders and the current board chairman is Father John Bauman, a disciple of Saul Alinsky. Indeed, Father Bauman quite openly discusses his great admiration for Alinsky in a link that I can put below. It is on, it's called Father Bauman Jr. discusses PICO, community organizing, passionate leader. Anyway, it was a loaded request from this lady. I was already making a list of all the interfaith organizations that were pushing the pro-immigrant and especially pro-Muslim agendas. And that's when I ran across the Harvard's Pluralism Project, which I've talked about in another video already. But this is what I wrote about it at the time. The project from 2011 to 2012 in particular looked at America's interfaith infrastructure. A CEO at one interfaith organization I contacted personally told me he believed none of the various cities or state organizations were connected to each other. Instead, he believed them to be organic and coincidental, whereas I was finding them to be about as organic as the boys from Brazil. Harvard's Interfaith Project seemed to favor my own research, as they said this, quote, "It became clear in our research that local organizations often are dynamically linked to national or sometimes international initiatives." Boom, there it is. They were finding that themselves. That's because they're all community organizers working toward the same globalist, multicultural, sustainability, social justice goals. Following the money gets a bit sketchy, however. The interfaith organization nearest me claims to receive most of its funds from the United Way, followed by the Church World Service, the Episcopalian Migration Ministries, and unspecified government funding. It seems to have been around since, the one near me says that it's been around since 1976, but don't ask them to prove it. Believe me, I looked everywhere I could into local files and couldn't find that they existed since 1976 at all. It was all a lie. But if you live here, it's easy to watch them cater almost exclusively to building and supporting the local Muslim population, often billed as combating Islamophobia. Interfaith organizations seem to have a penchant for aggressively promoting Islam, pushing back against anti-Muslim sentiments, and fostering interfaith dialogue. That's what they say they're doing. Groups that have received backing for such work include the Interfaith Alliance, Sojourners, the Shoulder to Shoulder campaign, and New Evangelical Partnership for the Common Good. Those all have websites that you can look up, and I'll list them below. Because most of these groups work on a range of issues, it's difficult to identify grants that specifically have supported their work on Islam. Now that is a quote. It's from the Pluralism Project. They say that they can't specifically figure out how much money a lot of the groups are spending on, I'm saying promoting, and they're saying fighting hate against Islam. I hope that wasn't too confusing. Let me just go on here. Along with the Catholic Church's Share the Journey project, there are a huge number of auxiliary organizations dedicated to dragging the U.S. down into a Muslim-dominated globalist hellhole. It seems that the spread of Islam is most likely the means to an end instead of the end game in and of itself. One assumes it wouldn't really benefit the powers that be to send everyone back to the Dark Ages, of course. So one must conclude that Islam is being exploited to destroy existing Judeo-Christian societal structure and deep-seated values. This is inevitably just part of an attack that also consists of Black Lives Matter and what they call Antifa, forming a type of pincer movement around unsuspecting Americans. Now, what I said is important. These things, like the promotion of Islam, are not meant to be the end in and of itself, establishing a giant caliphate in America. They're meant to destroy us to the point where we become submissive so that another power can come in that will be the power of the Antichrist eventually. The power will come in and take control over us because we've lost all sense of our Judeo-Christian values and what we held dear as Western civilization. I'm going to go down through some of scraping the tip of the iceberg with some of the auxiliary organizations. The Shoulder to Shoulder campaign, that's shouldertoshouldercampaign.org. That is dedicated to ending anti-Muslim sentiment by strengthening the voice of freedom and peace. This is from their website. Not surprising that most of these organizations are clubbing us over the head with freedom and democracy in order to subjugate us using words and concepts that feel familiar and friendly. Freedom and democracy so that we can be forced to shut up and accept whatever they want to force upon us. The Shoulder to Shoulder campaign leads to 8.5 million. If you follow these websites, you'll see that they're linked. 8.5 million, that is a website, and that is EIGHTPOINTFIVEMILLION.org. You have to spell it all out. That is your source on Muslim, Arab, and South Asian issues. If you are a reporter or any kind of journalist or news anchor, this organization can quickly provide you with experts on anti-Muslim bigotry. From Muslim advocates, the Muslim Justice League, or someone like Dr. Debbie Almontazer, who, the website boasts, led the historic bodega strike and rally in Brooklyn, Borough Hall, in response to the Muslim ban, where thousands of store owners peacefully protested the unjust ban, unquote. The organization serves as a Rolodex of speakers to journalists, producers, and bookers, and it's ready to help the media 24/7. They direct you to reach out to, now I'm going farther with where you can go from site to site to site and see where they go to. Now you got the website that I just said, 8.5 million. They're for the media to go to defend and spin everything into a pro-Islamic stance in the media. From 8.5 million, you can go to Rethink Media. That is exactly what it sounds like, rethinkmedia.org. That's an organization, coincidentally, founded when Obama took office. They claim to have played a central role in multi-organizational efforts to reduce Pentagon spending, to challenge discriminatory policies and prejudice directed against Muslim, Arab, and South Asian Americans, and ratify the START Nuclear Arms Treaty, challenge the unlawful treatment of terror suspects and detainees, and publicize the warrantless surveillance of citizens, and push for a negotiated outcome to the standoff with Iran. Can they cover anything else? It goes on to say that they were founded with a clear mission. Doesn't sound too clear to me. That mission would translate to many Americans as impeding efforts to stop the spread of terrorism. They've even got their own website, their own web-based applications covered. Guess who they're powered by? Rethink America is powered by Civic Actions. That's civicactions.com. That is a company that delivers successful large-scale web development projects. It also began in 2008 when Obama took office. And one of their stated goals is to attract clients that have similar values to our team and wish to focus on empowering people in their own communities. Seems pretty clear, especially when you keep in mind that one of their clients is funded by the Plowshares Fund. This is off their own website. That's plowshares.org. I'll put those links below. Rethink Media is funded by the Plowshares Fund. They're also funded by the Ford Foundation. They're also funded by the Rockefeller Brothers Fund and the Column Fund. That's COLOMBE, part of the Proteus Fund, PROTEUS. Be careful, you'll get dizzy chasing your tail watching all of these grantees giving each other money with no worry of getting audited by the IRS. To top things off, the Proteus Fund has a grant-making fund. Follow me so you see where I'm going with this. To top things off, the Proteus Fund has a grant-making fund that opposes the inappropriate use of religious exemptions to curtail reproductive health rights and justice, discriminate against members of the LGBTQ community, and otherwise undermine fundamental rights and liberties essential to a healthy democracy. There's that word again, democracy. There's an old spiritual that sings, everybody talking about heaven ain't going there. The same applies here. All of these organizations screaming peace, democracy, freedom are on the path to defeat those very ideas with their multiculturalist, globalist, and world without borders agendas. They're all on the same page, and it's all well orchestrated. And speaking of a borderless world, one of Rethink America's big campaigns, wait for it, to influence U.S. national security policies was funded in part by, and it's right on the website, George Soros Open Society Foundations. It's true what they say. Most everything leads back to George Soros, or who's ever running the ship for him at this point in his aged career. I'm sure he's not doing it solely by himself. Although the last time I saw him, he was pretty sharp. At the time that I wrote this, I said that the election of President Trump could hardly make a large dent in what has already been eroding America for years. And I still believe that. And I think they might be successful in taking Trump down. There are well-funded movements to change society as a whole. You know why they might be successful in taking Trump down and everybody will be surprised? Because nobody's been paying attention all these years. Because you've all been buying those stupid Nephilim books and listening to L.A. Marzulli and David Icke and the conspiracy theories that have been being covered by people who are sending or promoting prepper kits and all that stuff. God, say half of you people must have bought prepper kits 10, 15 years ago, and you had to throw them out and get some new ones by now. You haven't been paying attention to what's going on in your own community. So, okay, wait a minute. I got distracted there. I thought that was the police, which it could be right here. Let's see. There are well-funded movements to change society as a whole. Heck, millennials even have degrees that focus on religion and social change just for the very point of stopping people like us, God-fearing people, Christian, Judeo people who are proponents of Western civilization as a means of keeping the peace in the world. Did you know you could get a PhD like, let's see, there's one at the University of Denver that says it's a critical aspect of this exploration. In this exploration is the systemic whole of globalization within which particular contexts and problems are located. Yeah, you can get a degree in bullshit, and what it means is it's the kind of degree Catherine Osborne has. And she's the current campaign director that is currently standing shoulder to shoulder with American Muslims. Remember the shoulder to shoulder campaign? That's just one more of those interfaith organizations designed to force us to accept Muslims and anyone else without any regard to their assimilation or requirements for them to abandon something such as Sharia law in exchange for citizenship to be in America. I kind of messed up that PhD at the University of Denver thing. I'll leave a link below. Concentration on religion and social change. And it's just basically a glorified social justice, community organizer degree is what it is. So there's no denying or overcoming it. Whether it's sustainability or climate change or Muslims or immigration, it's already been thought of and implemented. And that has to do with the mindfulness that I keep bringing up too. They're all related. It's hard to explain all this, and I tried to do it again in an article that I tried to pitch to American Thinker, and they were like, "This is too confusing." I'm like, "No, it's a giant concept, and people need to be told that all these things are related." So whether it's sustainability or climate change or Muslims and immigration, it's already been thought of and implemented for the most part. And this is perhaps the most disturbing aspect. They've used the churches to do it. The Catholics, the Baptists, the Lutherans, you name it. Check out the steering committee on the Shoulder to Shoulder website as just one example, if you really want to know. Basically, they hijacked Christianity, and nobody noticed. Or, if you're a Christian like me, perhaps you're reading something more into it. Prophecies from the Bible predicting a one-world religion. They seemed so far-fetched when I was young. Now they seem to be happening easily and at breakneck speed. This article just outlines one thread in a complex fabric of silent social revolution. Your average man or woman on the street has no clue that their churches and their country are already gone. I've been called a defeatist, negative, pessimistic, but I challenge you to give me one project in your community, and I'll show you how it's firmly and unquestionably tethered to a solid globalist foundation. I challenge you to show me what's happening at your church, and I'll do the same. It's that simple. It's all being done. It's all being implemented. It might be kind of confusing. There are people that are doing a lot of conspiracy theory stuff. Then they can do Agenda 21 stuff, but it always seems like it's somewhere else. Like I say, if you're being distracted, don't be distracted by the Paul Begleys of the world. None of these people are really, they're looking for your money. I'm not asking you for any money. I had a PayPal button on my website. Nobody cared for over 10 years. So, I mean, I give up. But I think people should know. The interfaith organizations, the churches, they're the way they already got through. They're the way they've already got through and brainwashed everybody. I mean, there is nobody in my area. Of course, I'm in a sanctuary city. But there's nobody here that doesn't believe that homosexual marriage is a good thing. Today I was walking through a parking lot full of people, and I was the only white person in that parking lot. That couldn't have been said even 2 years ago. What are things like where you are right now? The Methodist Church that was here has been taken over by a Middle Eastern sect. The Catholic Church that was here has been taken over by an unknown group of Muslims. And how was it all funded? It was all funded through the Catholic Church. What's happening where you are? The Antichrist agenda is all falling into place. And you don't have to worry about giants and reptilians, because it's your neighbor that's the problem. I want to say, every time before I leave, let me try to remember, give your life to Jesus Christ. Just say, Lord, please forgive me of my sins. I give my life to you, and direct my steps from here on in. And every prayer you pray from now on, say in the name of Jesus Christ. If you please consider giving your life to Jesus. If you're watching this, you probably already have. Stay strong and ask for strength. You're going to need it. We're going through tough times. Godspeed.